experience, and I think that scarred me for life. And so I let them know anytime I have a new dentist or I move or I go to a different office, I let them know up front, like, look, I'm a pain in the ass. You're not going to enjoy dealing with me. I'm high strung. I have anxiety, and I need a lot of the nitrous. And so today I went in, and the process is pretty smooth. The dentist is an angel. She's beautiful, and she's an angel, and she handled me with care. And the nitrous was phenomenal. So once again, for a couple of hours as I'm lying back in the chair getting the work done on my teeth, I was in a good mood. All of my thoughts were euphoric, and that is amazing. I still need to do a radio show with that nitrous mask strapped to me. But I'll tell you what, those sunglasses suck. They're not exactly top-notch sunglasses. They look like those block sunglasses that my papa used to put over his glasses. You remember those things that your grandma and grandpa would put on over the top of their glasses? Like these block shades. Hideous. My grandpa wore them all the time. Hey, Papa, what are you doing there? Oh, these are my sunglasses. I just put them on over the top of my glasses. Well, they look horrible. That's what they give you at the dentist. And then as they're working on you, the hard plastic presses up against your grill, and that causes more pain. So anyways, the dentist explained to me that the reason why some of those smaller cavities, the reason why they weren't identified is that there were no x-rays taken 6 months ago when I went in before my checkup a couple of weeks ago. And she said, yeah, they're surface level. So if we don't do x-rays, some of that stuff can't be noticed, by the naked eye. And so there you have it. That's what went down, but I'm good to go. But my upper lip right now, it feels like it's like 10 feet wide. And I tried drinking something because I was thirsty. My mouth was parched, and it just leaks out of one side of my mouth and onto my shirt. So I'm done trying to do that whole experiment. But I have a daily dilemma. Here's my dilemma today, and maybe you can help me with this. And oh, by the way, my favorite NBA analyst, Brad Botkin of CBS Sports, is going to join the program coming up at 4:20. Brad Botkin is a badass, and I can't wait to talk hoops with him. And I know he's dialed in on the NBA Finals. But here's my dilemma, and it is surrounding the NBA Finals. I've watched all the playoff games, and we have been on this journey together right from the beginning of the playoffs with Portland taking on San Antonio, all the way through the Eastern and Western Conference Finals, and now we're 3 games deep into the NBA Finals. And I've now reached that point where I have paralysis from analysis. I have no idea what's going to happen in the Game 4 tonight. I don't know. I thought after Game 3 that the Knicks were primed for a bounce back in game number 4 tonight and would take a 3-1 series lead. But now, after thinking about the game, I'm now going back and forth. And now I think San Antonio is going to win a second road game, and we'll have the road team winning the first 4 games of the series. So I literally do not know what's going to happen. I'm leaning San Antonio. And if you look at the 3 games, the Knicks have a 2-1 series lead, but it's not like they've dominated the series thus far. They won 2 games in San Antonio, which was terrific. But the Spurs, the way they played in the last 3 halves of basketball in the finals, they're starting to take control. I think, obviously, the way that the game's going to be officiated tonight's going to be critical. One thing for certain, they've let the teams play and get physical through the first 3 games. I can't wait to see how the NBA adjusts tonight. Are they going to allow physicality? Are they going to call a tighter game? I might get a little bit tighter with the calls early just to let the players know that you do have a whistle and you're not afraid to use it. And players naturally will adjust as the game continues on. But I'll tell you one thing. The Knicks need to have a response to the physicality that they're showing to Jalen Brunson. I think the Knicks need to put Wemby on his ass. Some good old-fashioned physical basketball. Meaning, you need to go out there, send someone out there to take a flagrant and put Wemby on his ass. I love Wemby, and I think he's a great, great basketball player, but he's also kind of dirty, and someone's got to send a message. And there's got to be someone on the Knicks who is capable of just throwing him down. Go in with the idea that you're going to get maybe tossed from the game, take a flagrant, take one for the team, and send a message that, hey, if you continue to take shots at Jalen Brunson, we're going to continue to take shots at Wemby. It's the way the game has to be played. And I'm not asking for someone to kneecap him and try to injure him. I am asking for someone to put him on his ass. You got to. You can't let them continue to attack your best player. I hate that kind of stuff. And this is why I really appreciated basketball back in the day. Now, I understand why David Stern decided at one time that he wanted to clean up the NBA. There are too many fights. He was trying to grow the brand. He wanted to appeal to a mass audience. And he didn't want to have the perception that it was a thug league with guys looking to drop hammer on one another. Like, he didn't want that. I understand that. You don't want fights on the floor that spill into the stands. We saw what happened when that went down. Not good. But the way the game used to be played is much like we see in hockey, where guys police themselves. Meaning, if you take a cheap shot at one of our offensive players, we're going to pay it back with one of our enforcers. If you're going to shimmy up and down the floor like a clown, we're going to put a forearm shiver on your chest to send a message that we're not going to allow that to happen on our court. And that's pretty much how the game was played. And I like that. I like a little, outlaw justice like that. A little cowboy country justice where Charles Oakley drops a forearm on you and you know that, probably shouldn't shimmy up and down the floor just because I made a three-pointer or start dancing around on the court like a clown. But that kind of stuff goes on all the time now. And that's because we don't have the enforcers. But the one thing you have to do, if the refs are going to allow the physicality and the refs are going to turn the other way when Wemby decides to toss and chuck Jalen Brunson to the ground, someone's got to take one for the team and send a message. It's just the way it has to be. And not only that, he's young. He's more of a finesse player. You might be able to get him rattled early in the game, and maybe he'll take a cheap shot. And maybe you can get him tossed. Do whatever it takes. I don't care if this game's physical or not. These two teams are competing for a championship. Do whatever it takes. So I expect a little chippiness tonight, but keep an eye on the officiating and how the game is called. The biggest numbers, the ones we talked about yesterday, and this is something that must get resolved tonight by Mike Brown. Jalen Brunson. He is not having a good series through 3 games. Minus 13 when he's on the floor. He's got 13 turnovers. Not shooting a high percentage. His usage rate is off the charts at over 40%. And he's got 82 points on 81 shots. So that right there tells you that something has gone sideways. Their rating when he's on the floor is 108. When he's off, it's 132. Okay, so something's got to give here. So the Knicks have got to do a better job of getting the ball out of his hands so he's not dribbling out the clock. I don't need another 7 or 8 possessions tonight of Brunson just dribbling around, not even making a pass, and you play right into the hands of the Spurs defense. And if you dribble out the clock, the Spurs have the length, the physicality, and the perimeter defenders to get after Brunson. So the Knicks have got to do a better job of ball movement and player movement and making sure that they get Karl Anthony Towns involved. The other number that's almost unbelievable, I had to go back and look up each game because I didn't believe it. You want to take a guess at how many points Karl Anthony Towns has in the fourth quarters of the first 3 games in the NBA Finals? If you guessed 0, you would be 100% correct. He has not scored in the fourth. That's a troubling sign. So again, the Knicks are playing into the hands of the Spurs. The Spurs are geared to get after you on the perimeter with their defenders. They are forcing Brunson to get uncomfortable and dribble out the clock. Less ball movement, less player movement. I think they had 18 assists in game number 3. That's not winning basketball. The way the Knicks won 13 straight and dominated the Eastern Conference through their playoff run to the finals was from sharing the basketball, player movement, ball movement, and then when they had the opportunity to get out and push the tempo and make teams uncomfortable, that's what they did. But over the last 3 halves of basketball in the finals, we're seeing the Knicks revert back to Brunson ball, where he becomes he gets a high usage rate, he dribbles too much, and there's less player movement and ball movement. So just something to keep an eye on. But most importantly, get physical with Wemby. Seriously, what's the worst that's going to happen? Someone gets tossed? You get a flagrant foul, a flagrant one. You have to give up a couple of free throws in the possession. Someone's got to let someone know that, hey, if you continue to do that to Brunson, we're going to go right after your guy. You can't sit back or lay back and take it. You've got to respond. So that's what I want to see from the Knicks tonight. They got punched in the face in Game 3. I want to see them respond. And also, I think, the atmosphere tonight, the intensity, I think the Knicks are going to be better prepared to deal with the hoopla. It's real easy when you win the first 2 games on the road and everyone's kissing your ass because you're dominating. You're going to win a championship. Jalen Brunson's going to get a statue. Everyone in New York's going to go wild. I mean, the whole deal, right? And then all of a sudden you lose focus. So maybe Game 3 will provide a nice little wake-up call for the Knicks. And if you're the Spurs, you just come out and do the same thing. Fast start, be aggressive, no pressure. The Knicks are expected to win. They have all the pressure on them. And I think that gives an advantage to the Spurs there. Also, is there an over and under? I don't know if you can wager on this like you could whether or not Trump was going to get more cheers than boos or boos and cheers. What's the over-under on Knicks fans being arrested tonight if New York loses and the Spurs even up the series at 2? What's the over-under on arrests? Because Knicks fans are going to go bonkers. They'll probably start beating up Spurs fans again. They might try to light the city on fire. Knicks fans are feeling very they're nervous. And I'd be nervous too. This is what's crazy about a playoff series in the NBA Finals. The first 2 games are done. Knicks are up 2-0 going back to Madison Square Garden. It's over! The Spurs are done. They have no chance. They don't have the experience. They're too young. The Knicks have won 13 straight. It's over. Give Brunson a statue. Mike Brown, we thought he was dumb, but he's a great coach. Championship. And then 1 game later, it's like, uh-oh, the Knicks are in trouble. The Knicks are going to have an epic choke job. They have no answer for Wemby. I mean, Wemby went from being the GOAT, and not in a good way, but the actual GOAT for the turnover at the end of Game 2, to dominating being the best player on the floor in Game 3. And not only that, but I don't think Wemby's actually getting enough credit for his response after that meltdown in Game 2. Because that was a bad pass. And then he comes out and dominates Game 3. That's pretty impressive. So I don't know. I don't know what to expect tonight. What do you think? I really want to know what you think is going to happen tonight. Do you think the Spurs are going to even up the series at 2? Do you think the Knicks are going to win? Do you think that the Knicks need to send a message to Wemby by laying him on his ass? I really want to know what you think. 503-248-0620. And then Brad Botkin is going to join us coming up at 420. Telephone number so you can jump on board is 503-248-0620. Did I slur in the first segment? My mouth is numb. A lot of dental work today. And my upper lip feels gigantic right now. Also, more comments from LeBron that tell you he's psycho. This guy's so full of crap, too, LeBron. Oh, I don't worry about the conversation of GOAT. And yet, he keeps interjecting himself into the conversation. He's so narcissistic, he can't close his pie hole. It's unbelievable. All right, 503-248-0620. You got the Rip City Drive on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620.
Okay, we're back.
All right, Brad Bach at CBS Sports going to come up at 4:20. My daily dilemma is very simple. I have no idea who's going to win game number 2 or game number 4 tonight in the NBA Finals. I thought it was going to be the Knicks, but as I continue to look at the matchups and some of the trends that have taken place over the last couple of games, I now kind of think the Spurs are going to do it. But honestly, I have no idea. And that's part of what I love about this series. This has been a very, very compelling NBA final through the first 3 games. Back and forth. We've seen some big shot making. And really, all 3 games could have gone either way. So even though the Knicks are sitting there with a 2-1 series lead and they won the first 2 games on the road down in San Antonio, I don't feel like the Spurs, it's not like they're being dominated. So I don't know what to think. It's one of those situations where you overthink things, you have paralysis by analysis. So I just want to know from you, what do you see happening tonight? You think the Knicks are going to win and take a 3-1 series lead? Are the Spurs going to even this thing up going back to San Antonio for Game 5? Is Wembanyama going to play the way he did in Game 3, which is 1 day of rest between Games 3 and Games 4? Also, do you think the Knicks should go out of their way to send a message to Wembanyama? And not just Wembanyama, but really to the Spurs squad as a whole to say, hey, if you want to take cheap shots at Brunson, no problem. But we're going to come right back at your guy. The 2 biggest offensive stars in the game, of course, are Wemby and Brunson. And Wemby took a cheap shot on Brunson. They've been on him big time. And it's part of the reason why he has struggled. Their defense and their tenacity. And really, if you look back at the Western Conference Final, the Spurs, they won that series with their defense. And they have a multitude of perimeter defenders, whether it's, Stephon Castle, who is physical, Dylan Harper, who's athletic and physical. It could be Champagny, Vassell. I mean, they've got a whole bevy of them. They don't run out of guys that they can drop on you to get physical with. So they're going after Brunson, which is smart. You don't want Brunson to have freedom of movement. You don't want Brunson to light you up. You want to make life tough on him. And, of course, when a guy is smaller, chances are he's going to wear down a little bit quicker. That's really what it's all about. So I want to know from you what you think about this series. Telephone number 503-248-0620. And then we'll talk with Brad Botkin coming up at 4:20. If you hear me slurring or it sounds like I may have a lisp, my mouth is still numb from the multiple hours I spent at the dentist today. But it's starting to come back to life. At first, it's like I can't even take a drink of anything. It's going to spill out or onto my shirt, but I'm starting to get some feeling back. It's kind of like when your foot falls asleep. You know that sensation where you can't feel anything, but as it starts to come back, I'm getting that tingling sensation like I'm starting to get some feeling back in my body. Let's go out to the phones. Let's go to Astoria. Dave wants to chime in. Hey, Dave, I appreciate the phone call, my friend. What's your take on Game 4 tonight? What do you think is going to happen?
Well, first, I agree that it is a compelling series. I've enjoyed this matchup more than any in recent years. I'm really, really enjoying it. I'm like you. It's a coin flip. I'm kind of rooting for San Antonio because I've long been a San Antonio organization fan. I think they do things the right way, and I'm sympathetic because they're another small market. But I'm just enjoying it. I'm just enjoying the heck out of it. Well, my question is about the officiating. I'll tell you how I see it, and you can tell if I'm crazy. It seems like shut up, don't say yes yet. Seems like a lot of the teams have figured out that they want to push the skinny kid around, And that seems to be working to some extent. I don't think Wembayama knows quite how to deal with it. He can't deal with it physically because he's tall and gawky. It's getting to him. He doesn't know what to do on the court exactly. It's getting into his head a little bit, which is why I think he got frustrated and elbowed Naz Reid, and why he got frustrated and tossed Brunson aside. And I think that's the officiating seems. I mean, I know they always kind of slow down the whistle during the finals. That's just a given. But it seems like it's more so this series than in previous years. That's the part I'm wondering. Are you seeing the same thing, or am I crazy?
I don't think you're crazy at all, Dave. I'm seeing the same thing. I think they're allowing both sides to play, and I appreciate the phone call. I mean, that's the feel. I think most people get that feel like they're really letting them play. I would say this over the last two games. It feels like the whistle has been more beneficial to San Antonio. Now, that's what it seems like to me. But I agree with Dave's assessment on Wembanyama, where, he's young and inexperienced, and we've seen him already through the playoffs, lose control of his emotion a bit. He did try to decapitate Naz Reid, which is problematic, and he got in trouble for that. So he's going to lose it a little bit, but that's part of the process because teams, how do you defend him? It's kind of like the Shaq situation, right? Like, how many times do you think Shaq was fouled, but there was no foul call? He was so big and so dominant that the officiating crews would allow some of the smaller guys to get away with more because he was fouled constantly. So what are you going to do, call a foul on every single play? They didn't want to do that. They didn't know how to officiate Shaq. They never figured it out because they had never seen something quite like that. And so I think what's happening right now is that you have these large – you get someone like Wemby who we've never seen before at 7'5", and he just towers over the top of these other dudes. I don't think the officials quite know how to deal with it. But that's why I thought it was funny with Mike Brown whining and complaining after game number 3. It's like, dude, Karl Anthony Towns is holding Wemby on every play. Like, there's a lot of clutching and grabbing going on. So it's going both ways. And the officials, because they're inconsistent and typically not great at their job, you're going to have some missed calls or times where a certain team is going to get the benefit of the doubt. It's annoying, but it's not why the Knicks lost game number 3. They lost because they got away from what they do best. They didn't move the basketball. They only had 18 assists. Jalen Brunson had 7 or 8 possessions where he just dribbled out the shot clock and put up a bad shot without making a pass. They didn't defend well. They let Wemby get great position low early in the game. They got up to another slow start. They've been, behind by double digits in all 3 games. So it's not like the Knicks exactly played great basketball. Even during the second quarter, when they outscored the Spurs by 18 and took that 7-point lead into halftime, I didn't get the sense that the Spurs were, out of it. I thought the Knicks were just making tough shots. Those were long, contested shots that they were making, but they weren't getting good looks because it was a product of their ball movement or player movement. That's all. So we'll see. We'll see how things continue to shake out. Now, Dave Vesey has chimed in. What's up, Dave? I got all the Daves hitting me up right now. Hi, Chad, I'm with you. I wish there were still enforcers who would straighten everything out and take care of it, like Maurice Lucas would always say. I always got tired of Curry shimmying up and down the court with his dance and his nappy time move. It would be so nice that a player would knock him down and send a message of don't do that again. And guess what? Steph would stop, or Draymond would retaliate and probably get thrown out and hurt the Warriors. See, that's the way it was done, or it used to be done. Like Steph Curry, when he makes threes, I love Steph. Great player, great human. I'm down with Steph. But it is annoying when that guy hits a 3 and acts like he's never hit a 3 before in his life. He's like the greatest 3-point shooter of all time, and yet every time he makes one, he's stunned that he made it. Shimmying up and down the floor, dancing and acting a fool. That just wouldn't have flown back in the day. Someone would have come over and blasted him and let him know that if you act like that again, we're going to kick your butt. That's really what that was all about. There was a certain expectation that you're not going to act a fool out there. And if you're going to torch us from downtown, we're not going to let you celebrate and act like a buffoon. That's the way it was handled back then. That's all. But the NBA doesn't want fights on the floor, unfortunately. I like a little more physical brand of basketball. I don't mind it when tempers flare a little bit, but the league just said, no, we're going to get rid of that. And so now if there's a flagrant foul or someone takes a swing, people freak out like they've never seen that before. But, yeah, that's the way it was. I'm just saying, I'm not saying the Knicks should hurt Wemby. I'm saying that the Knicks need to send a message that the days of you just taking shots at Brunson and getting physical with him, it's over. Because if you do it and you continue to play him that way, we're going to go right after your guy. And we'll bring in someone off the bench who's not going to play a lot of minutes to take care of that for us. That's what you got to do. I mean, that's what I would do. And trust me, there are guys on the bench who would be more than happy to come in and take one for the team. Not only that, but when you have a guy who's still trying to figure his way out, figure things out in the NBA and is a little more finesse, you go in there and just blast him. I hope it happens tonight. You're going to see some strategic maneuvers based on the physicality. And then we'll see what the officiating does. Who knows? Who knows? Game to game, you never know what you're going to get with those guys. So, we'll find out. But in general, the officials will let them, play in this series. And it's been pretty obvious. Even, was it the last game? Mike Breen, who never says anything controversial about the officials, was like, they probably should start calling more fouls. And that's because the guys who were calling the game were just astonished at the physicality. And I would say this, too. How exactly do the officials miss Wemby, the biggest player on the court, chucking Brunson to the ground? It's like a no call. Might have been flagrant. I don't know. How do you miss that? No whistle? Are you blind? I don't understand how you can miss that. But that's what happened. And Jalen Brunson, to his credit, didn't whine or complain about it after the game. Mike Brown made the decision to let everyone know that the officiating was suboptimal. And we'll see if that works to his benefit or not. I don't know if it's going to backfire into his face. Sometimes the officials don't like being called out publicly like that. When you basically come out and say they wanted the Spurs to win the game, which is what he did, they don't like that. So I don't know if it's going to work against him, or maybe because he raised such a fit, maybe there'll be some adjustments to how the officials call the game tonight. My guess tonight, here'd be my prediction. We're still going to see physicality, but I think what they're going to do earlier in the game is call it a little bit tighter. They'll get a couple of fouls on a couple of dudes. It'll tighten things up. And then, of course, players they're smart. They'll adjust, just like in baseball, right? Hitters, they get up to the plate. Okay, what's the what type of strike zone we got tonight? After the first couple innings, they adjust based on how the game's being called, and they move on from there. And that's the thing, is like they just want consistency. If that's a strike in the first inning, make sure that's a strike in the ninth inning, or ball, or vice versa. Same thing with the NBA officiating. The players just want you to be consistent. If that's a foul in the first quarter, make sure it's a foul in the fourth. And I think that's why the Knicks were so ticked off in game number 3, is that some of the calls that were made when the Spurs feasted at the foul line in the second half, they were calling crap that they weren't calling in the first half. So you had in-game inconsistency. Like, that would tick me off. It's like, wait a second, what? I was getting molested in the first half, and now you're calling me for a foul because of that? Are you kidding me? But as I've mentioned before, heaven forbid that we question the officials, right? Somehow they're holier than thou. We can't question them. You can't criticize them, and they don't have to answer questions after the games. I want them to have to be held accountable and answer questions, but we're not going to get that. The league doesn't want to put them in that situation, but I'm telling you, if they knew they had to answer questions after the game, they might be a little more focused on some of the decision-making with the whistle, because they control so much over the course of a game. Outside of that, I love this finals. It's cool when you get a matchup like this. It's intriguing. I don't have a dog in the fight. I couldn't care less about San Antonio, and I couldn't care less about the Knicks. I just love compelling storylines, battles, and good games. And because we're getting that, like I'm enjoying these finals a ton. And every time I see Wembanyama right now, I'm just like amazed. How does a guy that size handle the rock like that? Do you ever catch yourself looking at him like, what in the world's going on there? It's like, whoa. It's pretty amazing. He's really good. And I like the Spurs. I've been marveling at them the whole playoff run because of their youth and inexperience. But yet, a lot of times, Harper and Castle and some of the young guys come out and play like they're seasoned vets. And Wembanyama is a crazy guy, though. I've never seen anything like that. And I love the Knicks. You know, they play together. They play for each other. And this is why I give them a great chance to bounce back tonight and get back to some of the things that have worked for them because of their togetherness. They play for each other. They've got experience. They're unselfish. And, you know, Brunson is more than happy to share the rock. They've just gotten out of rhythm the last couple of games. They need to get back to it, moving the bodies, moving basketball. All right, 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. After tonight, we'll get 2 more days off before Game 5 down in San Antonio. And that game tonight's going to tip off at 5:30. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. I want you to jump on board. Let me know what you think. Let's go out to Paul. And Paul's in Westland. Paul, I appreciate the call, my friend. You're up. What's on your mind?
Well, first of all, I've got some razzleberry and bubblegum flavored toothpaste coming your way, along with some adult-sized soft Oral-B toothbrushes.
Yeah.
Those for you.
Thank you.
I figured you'd be a bubblegum guy, but I also threw in razzleberry. The officiating has become too much of a storyline. I feel like for 6 weeks, you've been talking about, rightfully so, how horribly the officiating it is, and the refs are ingratiating themselves into the storyline, almost like they're players. It shouldn't matter that Tony Brothers is refereeing a game. It shouldn't be part of the storyline, and unfortunately, they are making themselves as much of a storyline as the players. By not calling fouls that are so obtuse, they're actually affecting the game.
Yeah.
As much as not calling them. So
yeah,
Adam Silver clearly has got a big issue. He should be in heaven having the marquee in New York City on the world stage for the finals, yet the officiating continues to undermine a very good product. I mean, he's got a superstar in Wembanyama. The only way it could be better is if the Lakers were playing the Knicks, but he's probably got the second best scenario, and he's got to get a hand on this officiating. That's unfortunately ruining otherwise good sport.
Do you think Adam Silver has ever been out in the sun?
No. Nosferatu, or I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly, the old school Dracula from the 1920s.
Yes.
No, it's just really sad what our NBA is becoming. We should not be talking about officiating. It's just.
And, dude, you know what's funny?
Players on the court.
Every time Scott Foster's put on a game, he's got the nickname the Extender. Isn't that funny? Like, no one believes that the NBA officiating is legit. They all think it's a sham. It's crazy to me.
Well, combine that with the popularity of betting, it's just creating a lot of questions in fans' minds, and Silver's really got to get this under control.
Yeah, well,
the refs should be held accountable. The refs should be. I don't know if they should be suspended or, maybe suspended. You can't officiate a game if you have, let's say, 3 horribly missed calls, Make them accountable. There has to be accountability.
I agree. I'm with you on that. So who do you think is going to win Game 4 tonight, Paul?
This is Paul's lock of the week. I got Knicks by 8.
Wow.
They're going to be in control most of the game. Cat's going to have 30 and 12 and 2 blocks.
All right. I love it, man. Thank you, because I'm still gripping trying to figure out what's going to happen. That's Paul in West Lynn. All right, 503-248-0620. And he is right. The officiating is a big storyline. I mean, here you are, the NBA Finals with the Knicks and the Spurs. You've got a storied franchise taking on the alien in Victor Wembanyama. It's the crown jewel. And everyone's focused on your crappy officiating. And Paul's right, that's not great for basketball. But it's been like this ever since I was a kid. The officiating has always been inconsistent at best. That's all. All right, so great work by Paul. Your telephone number is 503-248-0620. I'm getting more feeling back in my mouth by the moment, which is very good. I'd love to hear your voice. 503-248-0620. What's your keys for the game tonight, game 4? And who do you think is going to win? How is it going to play out? Because I have no idea. I'm done trying to figure this one out. I've overthought it, and now I'm all confused. But I know the game should be very compelling, and I'm excited about that. Brad Bach and CBS Sports coming up at 420. All right, the poster child for the me generation, LeBron James, he just can't help himself. And it's one of his biggest issues. It's like, just close your pie hole, LeBron. But the problem is he wants attention so bad because he is the poster child for the me generation that he can't stop talking about himself. He can't stop injecting himself into conversation, into the NBA Finals. He cannot stop from having his staff, represented by Clutch, go out and try to change the narrative and change history to try and prove or convince people that he's the greatest of all time. And it's really annoying. And here's the latest of what he had to say. You don't need to say this because when you do, it's going to make you look bad. LeBron says he's not taking anyone in NBA history over himself. Quote, I'm not taking nobody over me. There's no question. But I think Mike will say the same thing. Rest his soul, Kobe will say the same thing. Magic will say the same thing. Bird will say the same thing. Shaq could say the same thing. The late, great Wilt, Kareem. I don't think none of us are going to take somebody else. If there's a general manager and he's eyeballing all of us on a baseline with the number one pick, it's going to be hard not to take me, champ. All right. He's wrong. And here's why. Because Kobe, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, Wilt, Kareem, they're not going to have a conversation about this. They're not going to go around talking about how they're the greatest of all time. And that's because they're comfortable in their own skin. You'll never hear Michael Jordan say, I'm the greatest, or I think I'm the greatest. You won't hear him say that. He'll let the people decide because he's comfortable with his work, with his resume, and the time that he put in. Same thing with Larry. Now, Larry Bird will say that he'll take his 86 Celtics championship team and says, hey, I'll put that group up against anybody. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's like, hey, this is the best team I was a part of. I'll take it up. I'll take that group of guys, and I think we can compete with anybody in the history of the league. That's different than saying, I'm the greatest. I ain't taking nobody over me. Well, thank you, LeBron. I appreciate that. Thanks for clarifying. And let me get this straight. You're not going to ask for a retirement tour? Are you sure about that, LeBron? You know, for a guy who tries to pretend like he doesn't want attention, you still sure do a lot to get as much attention as possible. But that's the difference between LeBron and those guys. You know, they didn't go around trying to tell you they were the best. They would have never said that. They put in the work. They were happy with their careers. They'll let the people decide where they want to slot everybody else. That's all. So, again, we're going to get the full-on retirement tour. When LeBron decides he's done, he'll make sure we all know, and I guarantee it, I would bet my bottom dollar on it. I would bring my children in and wager them that LeBron is not just going to retire and walk off into the sunset. He will let everyone know ahead of time, this is my final season. And then you watch what will happen. Every single time in his final season that he'll announce before it happens, when he goes to L.A. or Dallas or New Orleans, he will get a little pregame ceremony, and they'll give him gifts. Every time he makes a stop to play his final game in a particular city. That's how it's going to go down. And we really haven't seen something like that since Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. When Kareem announced that he was going to retire, he was basically on a retirement tour. Now, he didn't ask for that, but because he was Kareem, he got that. And every time he went to a city for the final time, they honored him and they gave him a gift. And I've mentioned this time and time again, but Portland always stood out when Kareem played his final game at the Coliseum because the Blazers gave him a backgammon set. I just thought that was funny. You're going backgammon on Kareem, huh? That's cool. He must really like that game. I think the Lakers gave him a motorcycle or something. Backgammon. And that's what I hope the Blazers give LeBron when he's on his retirement tour, a backgammon set. All right, Brad Botkin coming up at 4:20. NBA Finals Game 4 from Madison Square Garden is coming up at 5:30. It's going to be on ABC, and right now the Knicks are a 2-point favorite. How do you see the game going down? 503-248-0620. I'm Chad Doing. You got the Rip City Drive right here on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. All right, what's going on, my friends? Now, 4 o'clock chat here. We start with the NBA Finals. Game 4 tonight from Madison Square Garden. Tip-off is at 5:30 on ABC. Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns hoping to make an impact tonight. Brunson is a big fan of Towns.
I truly love that. I love that dude and everything he's done for this team, the city, as a friend. And he's been fantastic.
Brunson has 82 points on 81 shots through 3 games. Towns is yet to score in the fourth quarter. The mayor and NYPD will not let Knicks fans gather outside of Madison Square Garden for a variety of safety concerns from the NFL. The Chiefs have reworked Patrick Mahomes' deal. He's now set to make $533 million through 2033. Checking the Major League scoreboard, bottom of the second in Baltimore. Right now, the Mariners and Orioles are scoreless. Into the first in Miami, Diamondbacks and Marlins scoreless. And top of the second in Pittsburgh, Dodgers, Pirates scoreless. All right, telephone number 503 248 0620. 503 248 0620. That is your telephone number. You can jump on board. My daily dilemma is pretty simple. Through the process of analysis, I have paralysis. I don't really know who's going to win tonight. I thought it was going to be Knicks, and now I think it's going to be the Spurs. I have no idea. But I've enjoyed this series thus far. The games have been very compelling. So if you have any thoughts on who's going to win tonight and what you think the key matchups are going to be in the game, let me know. I'd love to hear your voice on that. Also, I think it's about time for the Knicks to send a message to the Spurs and their rough physical treatment of Jalen Brunson and deliver a heavy hand to Victor Wembanyama. You can't continue to allow Jalen Brunson to get physically beaten up unless you're going to have a response. And the best way to respond is by getting physical with Wemby. That's all. I'm not saying you need to hurt him. I'm saying that you got to respond physically. Someone's got to be willing to take a flagrant on to send a message that, hey, you can't continue to take shots at our guy. They've got to protect Brunson. He's too valuable to them. He's too important. And right now the Spurs are doing a masterful job of being physical with Brunson and forcing him off his spots, which is obviously really tough. Telephone number 503-248-0620. That game's coming up at 5:30. Coming up here in 17 minutes, Brad Bakken of CBS Sports is going to join us, and we'll get his take on the game and on the rest of the series. And is the winner of Game 4 tonight going to be the eventual winner of the series? Because it sure feels like that. If the Knicks win tonight, hard to imagine the Spurs ripping off 3 straight wins to get the series. And if the Spurs win tonight and bring it back to a 2-2 tie, it's basically a 50-50 coin flip type of series now all of a sudden, which is crazy. We just overreact so much from game to game in a series that, after game number 2, you win 2 games on the road, it would seem like they might be done. But I think what this comes down to is the Spurs defense is so good, and their power rating, they are a better team than New York. And they won 60-plus games, one of 2 teams to do that. Like, San Antonio is no joke. They're young, and they made some critical mistakes at the end of games, but, pound for pound, they got more talent. They're a deeper roster. And they got Victor Wembanyama. So while it normally is tough for a team to come back from a 2-0 hole after dropping your first 2 games at home, when you play defense like they do and you're deep like they are and you have Victor Wembanyama, it's not as difficult as it might be for some other teams. All right, I mentioned this yesterday, a couple of things from the NFL. The Browns, like usual, a disaster. Their quarterback battle right now is between Deshaun Watson and Shedeur Sanders. And apparently this is going to continue. Here's their head coach, Todd Monken. Let's take a listen.
I really don't know. I'm not going to name a number one, so that I am not going to name. That chances are that's not going to. I shouldn't say that. Chances are I will not. Now, once we get to the fall, we'll have to dissect the reps how we see fit. I just don't see it after the way Shedur's played and Deshaun's played. They both played well enough to earn the right to compete to start.
All right, that's right there. That's life as a Browns fan. The head coach has no idea who's going to play quarterback, but it's a battle between Shedeur Sanders and the creeper, Deshaun Watson. And I know what the Browns are doing. They already traded Myles Garrett. That was a acknowledgement, a recognition of who they are and where they're headed. They obviously need to collect as much draft capital as possible. And more than likely, the quarterback of the future is not on the roster. It's not Dylan Gabriel. It's probably not Shedeur. And unlikely that Deshaun Watson would suddenly be able to bounce back from everything he's gone through. And can you imagine being Shedeur and losing that quarterback battle to freaking Deshaun after the creepiness and the injuries? That'd be crazy. But my guess would be the Browns looking to tank, trying to figure out what they have, but knowing that they're going to have opportunities in the future in the draft to address the quarterback situation. All right, let's go out to Raider Mike, joining us from the Carolinas. Raider Mike, what's on your mind? Fire away.
I have to give it up for the Canes. That goal falling down. What's that dude's name? Stahl?
Yeah.
I think.
It was awesome.
17 years in the league. I was like, okay, if I'm going to lose, I want to lose that way. So I'm good with that. Now, the hack, Dolan, the musical hack that he is, this would be the most extremely intelligent that idiot dude has done his whole tenure there as owner.
Well, I was talking about this yesterday, Raider Mike, where it's like it's easy to crack on James Dolan for a variety of different reasons, but when someone makes good decisions, you also have to give props. He brought in Maverick Carter. They turned the franchise around. I thought he was insane for getting rid of Thibodeau for Mike Brown, but it turns out he was dead on. He was concerned about Thibodeau running his guys into the ground, which he always does. He brings in Mike Brown. This team has been fresh throughout the playoff run. They're playing their best basketball at the right time of the year, and that credit goes to James Dolan. It's amazing, but he's pushed a lot of the right buttons, which has allowed this team to get into the position they're in. And also keep in mind, he was the one that had to sign off on the idea of going after Brunson in the first place, which has turned out to be a phenomenal free agent signing. So as painful as it is, props to James Dolan, because right now he's 2 wins away from a championship, and he's pushed a lot of the right buttons for this run.
Here's the decision he could make tonight, is you let Oakley back in the building tonight.
He's never
Have
doing
him
that.
go have a. Well, then bring in Anthony Mason and have Ant go over there and talk to Mitchell Robinson and say, next time the alien decides to see how high he can bounce Jalen's head off the court, Mitchell, this is what I would do back in the 90s. Because the point me and you've been talking about this for a couple of days. That point has to be delivered. Who cares, Mitchell, you get thrown out? Not a big deal, bro. And you'll become the talk of the playoffs. The moment you just take Wemby completely out, don't injure him. Just get the point across. Hey, alien, no more bouncing our star player's head off the pavement. I mean, dude, just something like that has to happen, or the Knicks are going to lose. And they're going to lose the series. If they lose this game tonight, it's over. It's a wrap. So if I was Dolan, I'd be thinking of all sorts of ways to and why can't you bring Oakley in? Can you imagine how electric that place would be if you finally took your dumbass ban off of Oakley, one of the best Knicks ever? one of the best enforcers in the history of the league.
Raider Mike, I think you're onto something there. Like James Dolan is on fire right now with some of his decision making. I think Raider Mike's got it right here. What he needs to do, Mr. Dolan, is reach out to Oakley, apologize, make him an honorary captain, and have him on the floor before the game to pump up the fans. Do whatever is necessary to thrust your team into the championship. And who better to talk to Mitchell Robinson than Charles Oakley, one of the ultimate bad guys? I'll never forget this story. It's one of my favorites. So I was hanging out with Brian Grant. We went to a Hall & Oates concert over at the Coliseum. Brian's like, hey, you got tickets? I'm like, yeah, I want to go. I'm like, wait, what? He's like, I love their music. I'm like, no problem, B, I got you. So we got together for the Hall & Oates concert. And it was pretty sweet to be sitting there with a tough guy like B. Grant, and he's shaking his booty during the Hall & Oates concert. I'm looking over during Maneater, and I got B. Grant right next to me shaking his booty. Like, I'm down with that. I'm down with B. Grant. That's cool. So anyways, that's beside the point. But he told me this story because I was asking about different guys that he played against, competed against. He had a lot of respect for Karl Malone. He said Karl was tough. But I said, like, is there a guy who, when you played against, like, that you feared? And he told me there was this time where he was in a game, and it's one of those classic Brian Grant situations where the play breaks down, the ball gets knocked away, and it's a loose ball. And what does a guy like Brian Grant do? He jumps on the floor and dives after loose balls. Like, he knows how to dive after loose balls. He could roll around on gravel. He could do whatever. He's a tough guy. And he said he got into a battle between him and some other guy where he was trying to get the ball, and he couldn't shake it away from this guy, and he was starting to get ticked off. And this guy ripped the ball out of B. Grant's hands, and Grant was getting ready to turn around and bop him one because they're both on the ground. And then he's like, oh, it's Charles Oakley. No problem, Charles. You can have the ball. It's all good. And that was the time where he's like, I'm not messing with that guy. I was also told that Oakley once, this is from a former player who was in attendance. They were down in Las Vegas for, like, it might have been during Summer League. They were having some meetings, right? Like NBA PA meetings. So some of the players were there. Charles Barkley, the Chuckster, was there. And what I was told was by this player is that they're sitting there in this conference room, and they're all sitting in their chairs, and Charles Barkley is sitting in his chair, and he's, like, leaning back in his chair. And he's, like, holding court like usual. He's telling stories and cracking everyone up. And then all of a sudden, this guy told me that walking into this little conference room through the doorways was Charles Oakley. And he said that Oakley just made a beeline for Charles Barkley, who was leaning back in his chair. Oakley walks over, open hand, slaps Barkley in the face. And because Barkley's leaning back in his chair, he falls down to the ground. And Oakley then takes a step forward and stands right over the top of him. And he says, if you ever say anything about me to another woman, I'm going to kick your ass. And the guy told me that Oakley then turned, stepped over Barkley, walked out of the room, and that was that. That's the guy that Brian Grant was like, no problem, bro. You can have the ball. And Brian Grant's a tough guy. I just love that story. I think it's great. So maybe Dolan should just complete the circle of life. Let bygones be bygones. Have Oak back in the building. Let him be an honorary captain. Get him on the floor to pump up the crowd. And then have a little convo with Mitchell Robinson. Like, dude, this is how you handle the Wemby situation to make sure that they start leaving Brunson alone. A good idea, Raider Mike. All right, when we come back, we'll talk to the basketball clinic himself, Brad Bachman, CBS Sports, breaking down the finals here on the Rip City Drive.
right side, between his legs, stutter step, free throw line, pull-up jumper, good! De'Aaron Fox in the eyes of the defense, and the biggest shot of the series to date for the Spurs puts them up 5 with 12.2 to play.
All right, joining us now to talk NBA Finals is my favorite NBA analyst from CBS Sports, Brad Bakken. Mr. Florida Man is back, and he's on the show. Brad, which number is more eye-popping to you? The fact that Jalen Brunson has 82 points on 81 shots through 3 games with only 13 assists, or the fact that Karl Anthony Towns has not scored in the fourth quarter?
And they're both kind of unbelievable, aren't they?
Yes.
I don't know. I mean, like, when you look at the context of the series, I guess I would be more surprised that Towns hasn't scored in the fourth quarter, given how effective he's been, at least he was through the first 2 games. But the Spurs are pretty uniquely designed to give Brunson problems. So I'm not entirely shocked that this has been a difficult series for him. Some of the numbers are pretty striking. 13 points worse when he's on the court, 20 plus 20 when he's off.
Yeah.
But given the individual defenders that they have, to make him even getting past the first line of defense a struggle, and then Wemby waiting behind him, all those 12-foot footwork shots that Brunson sort of lives on and where he gets his rhythm, those are pretty much taken away. He can't kind of float into that gray area of the key without Wemby bothering or basically eliminating those shots. And so he's having to survive on a pretty tough shot diet. Same thing we saw from Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He struggled. It's really no secret. These guys that want to get to the mid-range and pull up, Wemby's, I said it, I'm not the only one to say it, but I was harping on this from the start of the playoffs. That's why the Spurs were my pick. He just alters the geometry of the court. All these shots that Jalen Brunson is used to pulling up on, needing X amount of space, he now needs twice the room. He's not getting it. So Castle, these guys are pressuring him 94 feet. He's having to dribble the air out of the ball. A lot of the factors, Chad, to me, are swinging back in San Antonio's favor, but it'll be a moot point if they don't win tonight.
Boy, that's for sure, because you know that if the Knicks win tonight, it's unlikely the Spurs are going to win 3 straight to win the series. I would agree with that assessment. But if the Spurs win tonight, then all of a sudden it becomes a 50-50 coin toss once again. But I want to ask you this about the Knicks' style of play. I think they had 18 assists in Game 3, and there was probably 7 or 8 possessions I counted where Brunson dribbled the clock out and did not make a pass and, put up a tough contested shot. So what was the shift? How did the Spurs get the Knicks back into playing more Brunson-centric ball instead of the player movement and ball movement that led to the 13 straight wins in the postseason? How did they accomplish that?
Okay, 2 things. They went to the matchup that I thought they would start the series with Wemby shadowing off of Josh Hart instead of guarding Karl Anthony Towns straight up through the first 2 games of the series. And this is another reason why I think Towns struggled in Game 3. All this stuff is connected. But Wemby was pressuring Towns really, really far out, crowding his space, and Towns was going right by him. He has a quick enough first step to go by Wemby, but he's not quick enough to go by Devin Vassell or some of these other wings, a Castle, that are ending up on him. So now he has to go down to the post to really have an advantage, and that's where Wemby's roaming. So I think that adjustment of having Wemby in the paint has made it tougher for Karl Anthony Towns to win the initial leverage. Okay, first one. The second one is the way that ball gets moving is to initially beat something and draw help. And once we saw that beautiful possession that the Knicks had, it was going viral. I think it was Game 2, and it just drive and kick. And the Spurs were rotating like hell, and they finally ended up getting a corner 3 from Mikal Bridges. That's how the Spurs get the ball popping, is with these driving kicks and getting someone to help. But the Spurs are designed when Wemby is a roamer, and that's the key. In the Game 3, they put him on Hart and allowed him to be a roamer. They no longer have to help on all those drives. Wemby's now in the paint and can just hold down the fort there, and the wing defenders don't have to leave their man. And so those kick-out passes that get those ball swings going aren't as open. And so Wemby being able to hang out in the paint, it serves 2 different purposes. One, it makes it tougher for Karl Anthony Towns to penetrate and get that first dribble leverage. But two, it keeps the Spurs from having to help. Anybody that gets beat off of the dribble, Wemby is there. So these wing defenders not having to suck down and open up that drive and kick game, that to me is the difference.
We're talking to Brad Bakken, CBS Sports. The other thing that impressed me with Wemby was the way he responded in game number 3. I'm not surprised. I just thought it was an impressive performance, 32 points, 8 boards, 6 assists. After that meltdown in game 2, a pretty good response for a young player after a critical mistake that cost his team a game in game number 2.
Okay, so he did make a critical mistake, but I've got some sympathy. First of all, he played terrific down the stretch of game 2.
Oh, he did.
And I think the Spurs carried what they figured out in the end of game 2, even though they didn't win, into game 3. They figured out Wemby downhill in the paint and De'Aaron Fox really pursuing those kind of mid-range jumpers, which that's going to be there for the rest of this series. If Wemby's rolling as hard as he was in game 3, and I don't mean rolling figuratively, I mean like literally rolling to the rim, the defense has to go with him. And so De'Aaron Fox coming off that ball screen is going to have those 12-foot pops all series. And they figured that out down the stretch of game 2. He was more aggressive looking for that shot. Castle can do the same thing. And so I think that's, Wemby, he fueled himself at the end of game 2. That mistake was a split-second thing where it was a little bit rushed. I'm sure, the pressure and the tightness of the moment was part of it. But that, Castle was looking back at him. He thought he was going to pass on a normal outlet, and as soon as he saw Wemby put the ball on the floor once, he looked, and at the second he looked away, Wemby passed, and it just was. I don't think it's going around like the guy's an idiot. He just threw it off the back of his. It's like, no, it was a split-second thing. Castle turned away at the moment. Okay. But to your point, the response in game 3, at this point, they were down 3-2 to the Thunder. Like, this team is so tough and so good and believes. When Stephon Castle says when they're down 2-0, we think we were the best team, we still think we're going to win. Like, he's not just saying the right thing. Like, they believe it. I don't care how young they are. And they come out, not only do they come out and play this way, but they're down 7 to start the second half. Forget how they played the whole game. Like, you're down, you've played well, and you come out and you're still down. And to respond the way that they did in the third quarter, to even give themselves a chance to win in the fourth quarter, this team is totally tough as nails, man.
You know what's great, too? Like Dylan Harper, you were talking about how tough and physical their guards were earlier in the playoffs. But I was watching Dylan Harper. He did not shoot the ball well in game number 3, but he's so physical defensively for a young guy. And then he's got this fearlessness for when he attacks the rim, and he goes in with reckless abandon. Like, I really appreciate him a great deal. He's awesome.
Oh, he's incredible. I mean, I think the more reckless abandon guy is Castle. That guy's like right on the edge of out of control.
Yes, they're both crazy.
Like I always think about, you ever seen Days of Thunder?
Yes.
Great movie. So when Harry Hogg's on the radio and Cole Trick goes, loose is fast and on the edge, out of control. That's Castle. Like, he's loose. The back end is loose. He's playing fast. He's and he's always flirting with turnovers. To me, Harper has that same kind of like ferociousness, but it's more in control. I don't fear him losing the ball. The fact that I just keep harping on this, but the fact that he's 20 years old, it's one thing if you're like a young Allen Iverson and you're just crossing over all these, you're so quick, your youth doesn't matter. But when you're winning physically as a 20-year-old against grown 7-foot, 240-pound men, you're going right through their chest to finish. That is grown man basketball, and he's still a kid. It's just, that's incredible to me. And so the way that the Spurs are now getting downhill, I think some of the factors in this series are swinging back toward the Spurs. One, they're taking Wemby off Towns and let him roam as a helper, and that's basically shutting off the paint. He's a one-man help service, so now nobody else has to help. And I think that's going to continue to stunt the Knicks ball movement, force Jalen Brunson to keep dribbling the air out of the ball because he's got really got nowhere to go with it. That's one. But two, now, of course, Wemby getting into the paint. I thought Mitch Johnson did a great schematic job he designed some double drags, some Spain pick and roll, some things where they actually brought Brunson into the action. I thought way too often in the first 2 games they were letting Brunson just hang out on Champagnie as a corner floor spacer, and they weren't making Brunson defend. In Game 3, they brought him up into the action, and he ended up being, on multiple occasions, the guy that was going to have to stop Wemby from rolling to the paint. Not going to happen.
No.
And so through the first 2 games, Wemby's having to fight his way through Towns and OG and Mitchell Robinson and all these big, strong guys just to get positioned down there. In Game 3, the way that they involved Brunson in the pick and roll and the switches that forced, Wemby got kind of a conveyor belt down to the paint. And you saw it, 13 of his 18 shots in the paint. The 4 of the first 5 were basically dunks, I think. They throw it right up to the rim because once he gets – the whole key is getting down there. That's the problem. He's not strong enough to do it on his own. But I thought Mitch Johnson came up with some cool schemes to get him down there. And then once he's down there, now you can play, look, let's throw it high. Let's throw it really high to the 8-foot dude. But he's got to get down there to begin with. So I think, the fact that they've figured out how to get Wemby downhill, the fact that Wemby's mentality more and more, if you look, Tim Legler's been, his podcast, the All-NBA podcast, great follow. They've been charting this. His average shot distance in the first game, I think, was 17 feet. In Game 2, it went down to 13 feet. In Game 3, it was 10 feet. So every game, he's creeping closer and closer to the basket. Every game, Brunson is dribbling more and more and more. The factors are going San Antonio's way.
This is what I love about 7-game series, Brad, is the adjustment game to game. So
yes.
What's the logical counter move for Mike Brown and his crew tonight to try and get the Knicks back on track?
I think that so if you watch Game 3, what really unlocks New York's offense is when they started going to Towns as a facilitator.
Yes.
In Game 3, everybody's harping on this, 0 points in the fourth quarter. He only had 11 points in the game in Game 3. He's supposed to be our second guy. He's got to score big. And, sure, that'd be great if he hit some threes tonight and had 24 points. But I think if you look back at the film, the Spurs are treating Towns as the guy that they want to double team now. So every time they're putting a wing on him, let's just say it's Vassell for whatever possession, and he's got a size advantage. As soon as he gets the ball anywhere inside the 3-point line, Wemby's shadowing over to him. He's double teaming. So I think, to me, unlocking Towns tonight as a facilitator, drawing that double team, drawing Wemby as far away as he can, and him starting the ball reversals. Because I don't think the Knicks are going to succeed starting the possession, getting the initial leverage with Brunson. I don't think he can consistently beat Harper and Castle off the dribble to start the domino effect.
Yeah.
So, and you saw that. And the Spurs are obviously very comfortable with their individual defenders on Brunson, because if you go back and look at the film in Game 3, they were sending 2 to Towns, not Brunson. They believe that their guys can handle Brunson straight up.
So this really goes back to the keys that you had before the series, where tonight you're going to see Wemby on Hart because he wants to roam. So it's going to be critical for Towns to win his matchup against Champagnie or whichever wing they put on him to force Wemby to have to play Towns some during the game.
Well, just force Wemby to come double.
Yes.
That's the key, so because you got to get him away from the rim, but it's tough. He doesn't have to come that far. I think the Spurs will live with, if Towns is firing up threes. So then it becomes the same problem. Yes, Towns is a great shooter, better shooter than Wemby, but when he was really killing the Spurs, and this is why they switched up the matchup.
Yeah.
It wasn't just because they wanted to go to Wemby as a roamer. Wemby couldn't guard him on the perimeter. Towns was going to the rim. There's 8 or 9 instances of Wemby closing out on him and just having no chance to move his feet quick enough to stay in front of Towns' drives. And credit Towns, he was aggressive doing it. But so part of this adjustment is, getting Wemby as a roamer. That's where he's a natural predator, just hanging out in the paint, and he doesn't have to pay attention to Hart. But it's also putting a quicker person on Towns where he can't win that first step. And so, I think that tonight he's going to see a lot of or at least a lot of shades when he gets the ball, and quick decisions from Towns to get it to the right person to start the ball swings. Because if they just keep relying on Jalen Brunson to create initial leverage, that's why he's dribbling the air out of the ball, because he's trying to create the initial leverage, but he can't get it.
That's a great point.
He can't get him. He can't get by Castle and Harper. If you look at, he's got 44 shot attempts. This is a crazy stat. 44 shot attempts in this series so far after 6+ dribbles. 6+ seconds of possession time.
Wow.
Do you know how long it is to dribble the ball for 6 seconds? and then get a shot up in an NBA possession.
It's an eternity. Yeah.
It's an eternity. 44 times he's done it in this series. The next closest guy is like Castle with one of those guys has like 12 or 13.
Wow.
So he's having to it's like when you're playing a one-on-one against like a better player and you just have to dribble around in circles, until the guy finally gets tired. That's not real basketball. There's a shot clock in real basketball, and he can't get the initial leverage. And so I don't think they can depend on him to start those beautiful ball swings tonight. I think Towns is the guy that's got to draw the first help, and they go from there.
Okay, that makes sense. We're talking to Brad Bach, and I got two more questions for you. A lot of people are talking about the officiating. What are your thoughts on the physicality in the series through 3 games and the way it's being called?
This officiating is so ridiculous. I mean, these fans that think, oh, my God, Wemby's dirty. I mean, give me a break. And I don't want to do this whole I grew up in the 80s, Bill Laimbeer used to choke people. Like, I don't want, even through the prism of the standard by which we judge basketball today, this is just physical basketball. Nobody's being dirty. And if there are dirty plays on both sides, we saw a play where Luke Cornett was just trying to take the ball out of the basket after a made basket, and Josh Hart didn't want him to take it out right away. Wanted to stall the early offense getting back. So he comes underneath the net, and Luke Cornett knocks him over, and people making it like Luke Cornett did something like Knicks fans. This has been such a phenomenal series, and it's not only because of the talent; it's because of the physicality with which they're letting them play. They are loose and on the edge of out of control, baby. This is cold trickle, pedal down, smoke in front of them. Let's get it. I mean, I haven't been this excited for an NBA Finals game tonight if my Warriors aren't playing, and I can't even remember the last time I was this pumped. This is an unbelievable series. Both these teams, this is the cream of the crop at a level 100 competition level.
I agree.
Level 100.
Yeah.
Physicality is unbelievable. There's nothing dirty going on. If you think that this little gnat, Jalen Brunson, grabbing your jersey and you're 7 foot and you push him, you get a little annoyed and give him a get off me push. If you think that's dirty, you've never played a competitive sport in your life.
Yeah. That's great. I love this series is so much fun. So it brings me back to my daily dilemma. After game number 3, I had the initial thought that the Knicks would bounce back and win the game tonight. But now, after looking at the series and the matchups and talking about the things that you just discussed, I like the Spurs tonight, I think. Like, where you come out in the game tonight? Do you think the Spurs win?
Chad, I don't know. That's the point. I don't know. After you think about everything that went right for the Spurs in Game 3, like Wembanyama played great. He was efficient. He got in the paint. Stephon Castle was great. Got in the paint, great defense, forced Brunson to dribble the air out of the ball. Brunson was inefficient. Towns had 11. The Spurs had 9 turnovers, so they take care of the ball. Brunson gets in foul trouble, has to sit for a long stretch in the third quarter. All of these things went San Antonio's way, and it was a 2-point game with 10 seconds to play.
Exactly.
So that's how good the Knicks are. So all I'm saying is the Spurs are starting to figure out, and obviously for at least Game 3 did figure out the advantages, the biggest advantages that they have in this series, pressuring Brunson, doubling Towns, Wemby as a roamer, cutting off Towns' penetration by putting a wing on him, doing these schematic things to get Wemby downhill and into the paint. All this stuff is what the Spurs need to do. And still, the Knicks were within 2 with 10 seconds to play. These teams are so good. I'm not surprised by the Spurs. I'm still kind of floored by how – I just guess I wasn't paying quite enough attention, or I was lending too much to it's the Eastern Conference. The Knicks are so good. It's unbelievable. The OG Anunoby, this guy might –
Oh, it was unbelievable, Brad. Gosh.
It's unbelievable. They come at you from so many ways because it's the Boston blueprint. Everybody can shoot, pass, and dribble. Everybody. So that's what starts these ball swings. If it ends up in Mikal Bridges' hands, he can attack the closeout, dribble, and kick it out. OG, attack the closeout, kick it out. Brunson, attack the closeout, kick it out. Hart, attack the closeout, kick it out. Towns can shoot, can dribble. Everywhere the ball goes, they can attack. It is relentless. Shamet coming off the bench. Deuce McBride off the bench. Jordan Clarkson's playing. These teams are so good. This is what the NBA Finals should be.
I agree. Man, hey, by the way, How many more times does Dylan Harper have to get rejected by OG going at the rim before he's like, you know what? I think I'll take a different approach here. Every time he goes and challenges OG, OG rejects him. It's amazing.
Dude, OG is one of, when you're around NBA arenas and you see the NBA players, there's two guys that have always stood out to me that just you have no idea until you see them up close what a specimen they are. Like just a warrior, and that is OG Anunoby. If you have no idea the brick of a man that this guy is, 6'8", 6'7", 6'8", absolutely sturdy as a mountain. This guy is just, it's not just that he's tall. It's his head and his hands and his feet. He's just like an absolute beast of a man. And then the other guy, it's just DeAndre Hunter, and I'm totally going off the reservation here, but
he's ripped, man. He's ripped.
Oh, anybody, and this is the kind of guy I'm talking about. It's like when you see LeBron on TV, he's a specimen. But those two guys, when I saw DeAndre Hunter, I was just like, dude, God, took a little more time to say, I'm going to create a basketball player here.
Yep.
And it's just, and OG is, but I'll tell you what, God took a little more time on Dylan Harper too. So he might be getting turned away. But the fact that he's still going that guy is a stud in his own right. So I wouldn't tell Dylan Harper for a second. I don't care if prime Shaq is in front of him. This guy has earned my trust to go through the body of anyone. And I say, keep attacking.
Yeah, I'm with you too about OG and Hunter. I prefer my basketball players to be thickly muscled through the chest. Those two guys are amazing. It's amazing.
Oh, dude.
Jeez.
Dude, yeah.
What happened to us, man? I would give a body part to be an Adonis like OG. I just admire him so much. He's so big, so strong, and such a great player. And unselfish.
Oh, these are the guys that are in Viking movies, Anunoby's going to he's straight to Valhalla, these guys are they're different, man. They are different.
Dude, you're the man. I'm loving I'm glad you and I are on the same page. Just have fun tonight, man. This game is going to be badass. I appreciate you, Brad.
It's incredible. Today, listen, to Chad, the day I had today, I did my TV. I was home by 2. I went to the chipping green. I chipped. I putted. I came home. I played a tennis match. Now I'm ready for the game. This is
you went golf and tennis today? Awesome.
Yeah, but I just went to the chipping green. My wedge was clean today. I came home, played tennis. Now I'm ready for the game. This is as good as the day gets. And I'm getting paid for this. Come on.
Yeah. Let's go. Let's have a go.
Come on.
All right, brother. Enjoy.
All right.
Gosh, he's the man. Brad Bakken, CBS Sports. Like I told you, basketball clinic, and he loves sports. Brad is a freak. All right, we'll keep things rolling. Rip City Drive, Game 4 NBA Finals coming up at 5:30. All right, big thanks to Brad Bakken. He ate up most of the clock for the rest of the hour, but it's worth it because he's so good. Like, that is a really good guy, really smart, and I thought he did a good job of breaking it down. So according to Brad, it's pretty simple tonight. Keep an eye on Karl Anthony Towns. They've got to make him the key initiator and facilitator in the offense. It will take pressure off of Brunson, but more importantly, if he plays well, it'll help draw Wemby away from the basket. Because if he's the roamer, just like we talked about before the series, and he's allowed to create havoc, the Spurs are going to be tough to beat. They are really good. So I'm pumped about the game tonight. I think Brad's right. It's going to be awesome. You know, this series has been great, very compelling, but it's a lot of fun to watch. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. My boy Steve just reached out. Wemby palmed Brunson's dome and pushed him into the ground. He did. He literally palmed his dome and pushed him into the ground. And I agree with Brad, too. It's just physical basketball. And the reason why it's not alarming to me is because I grew up watching physical basketball. You know, sometimes you got to make a statement. That's why I'm all in favor of the Knicks sending a message and getting physical with Wembanyama tonight. What's the worst that's going to happen? Someone gets ejected or there's a flagrant one? Oh, no. We don't want that to happen. No, you got to send a message that, hey, we're going to get physical with you. And if you can throw him off his game and it gives you a better chance to win the series, why wouldn't you do that? All right, 503-248-0620. My boy Sean in Damascus says, I love Brad's knowledge and enthusiasm. OG, meaning OG Anunoby, has that wild look in his eyes. He is. He's one of those guys where when you look at him, you're like, I don't need any piece of that, man. OG Anunoby's a tough dude. He's so good in this series. He was great in Game 3. All right, we'll keep things rolling. Your telephone number to jump on board, 503-248-0620. You got the Rip City Drive. All right, it's now 5 o'clock. Chad is here, and we start with the NBA Finals. Game 4 tonight from Madison Square Garden. Tip-off at 5:30. It's going to be on ABC. A couple of numbers that are amazing. Brunson has 82 points on 81 shots through 3 games, while Karl Anthony Towns has yet to score in the fourth quarter. But those two remain close, critical parts of the Knicks attack, and Jalen Brunson's a big fan of Karl Anthony Towns.
I truly love that. I love that dude and everything he's done for this team, the city, as a friend. And he's been fantastic.
The New York mayor and NYPD will not let Knicks fans gather outside of Madison Square Garden due to a variety of safety concerns from the NFL. The Chiefs have reworked Patrick Mahomes' deal. He is now set to make $533 million through 2033. Checking the Major League scoreboard right now. Top of the fourth in Baltimore. Mariners and Orioles still scoreless. Marlins a 1-0 lead on the Diamondbacks. Bottom of the third in Miami. And top of the fourth in Pittsburgh. Dodgers and Pirates still scoreless. This, of course, the great song by Paul McCartney and Michael Jackson, Say, Say, Say. McCartney biographer Ray Coleman asserted that the majority of the song's lyrics were written by Jackson and given to McCartney the next day. Recording for the song began at ARR Studios in London in May of 1981. At the time, McCartney was recording Tug of War, his second studio album after breaking up with his group, The Wings. Jackson stayed at the home of McCartney and his wife Linda during the recording sessions, and he became friends with both. While at the dining table one evening, Paul McCartney brought out a booklet that displayed all the songs to which he owned the publishing rights. Quote, "This is the way to make big money," the musician informed Jackson. Quote, "Every time someone records one of these songs, I get paid. Every time someone plays these songs on the radio or live in performances, I get paid." McCartney's words influenced Jackson later's purchase of ATV Music Publishing in 1985. And, of course, he ended up buying the Beatles catalog and wouldn't sell it to McCartney, and that pretty much destroyed their friendship. McCartney played several instruments on Say, 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 including percussion, synthesizer, and guitar, even though it's not mentioned in the credits for the track. The harmonica was played by Chris Smith, rhythm guitar by David Williams. Nathan Watts played bass, and sound engineer Jeff Emmerich. Horns were overdubbed at Cherokee Studios in California in April of 1982, and the production of Say, Say, Say was completed in Britain in February of 1983. As keyboard player Bill Wolfer recalled in a 2014 interview, he and Jackson worked on a rough sketch of the song based on the original acoustic demo with McCartney, Jackson's intention being to present the latter his version for the song. The soon evolved into a 24-track studio recording with a rhythm section, horns, and harmonica laid down, which Jackson presented to McCartney instead of this was kept in the final version. George Martin, who had worked with the Beatles, produced the song. He said of his experience with Jackson, he actually does radiate an aura when he comes into the studio. There's no question about it. He's not a musician in the sense that Paul is, but he does know what he wants in music, and he has very firm ideas. Jackson also spoke of the experience in his autobiography, Moonwalk. The younger singer revealed that the collaboration boosted his confidence as Quincy Jones, producer of Thriller, was not present to correct his mistakes. Jackson added that he and McCartney worked as equals, stating that Paul never had to carry me in that studio. So there you go. I like this too. According to musictones.com, by Alfred Music Publishing, Say 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 was performed in common time with a dance beat of 116 beats per minute. It is in the key of B minor and sung in a vocal range from F3 to B4. And according to what it says here, the lyrics to Say 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 reflect an attempt to win back a girl's affection. A pleading kind of love song. So there you have it. The song did very well. And I think I told you that it was the original call from Jackson. He called up Paul. He's like, hey, Paul, this is Michael. And Paul thought he was being pranked, right? So he hung up, and then Michael called back, and then he's like, hey, you want to make some hits? And that's how it went down. Love those kind of stories. All right, NBA Finals, Game 4 coming up here in about 25 to 30 minutes. I'm getting tired of these reported start times for games. And we saw this with the Stanley Cup Finals last night. Puck drops at 5. Well, not really. We're going to drop it at 5:21. Isn't that weird? Like during the regular season, NBA games have in Portland, typically 7 o'clock start time, but it doesn't really tip off until 7:12. And the same thing with the NBA Finals. It's like 5:30, but we're really going to tip it off around 5:45. They got to get through all the pregame nonsense and stuff. So we'll see how things shake out tonight. I literally have no idea who's going to win the game tonight. I can make a case for the Knicks. I can definitely make a case for the Spurs. But I guess that's part of what makes this series so great. We should expect the unexpected based on what's happened thus far. It's the first time since 1993 where the road team has won the first 3 games in the series. It's very rare to have a series play out like this one, where home court advantage is not really an advantage. But I think it also shows that these two teams are pretty evenly matched. And really, what is this going to come down to? It's going to come down to a couple of key possessions, like we've seen through the first 3 games. Meaning, you got to value each possession. Turnovers are going to be critical. And who makes the fewer mistakes in crunch time? And all 3 games have had crunch time minutes. So, I mean, I guess we're getting set up for a big-time game tonight. And it's fun to watch a series where I don't really have a dog in the fight. Like, I'm not upset if the Spurs win the title. I'm not going to be upset if the Knicks win the title. I really like this Knicks team, and I like what they're about, and I like watching them play. But I'm not going to be upset one way or the other. I just want a compelling series with great storylines. And if we get, 4 more games like we've had in the first 3, I'm totally cool with that too. It's fun. I enjoy it. So if you got any thoughts on the finals, who you think is going to win, what are the key matchups going to be tonight, that would be fine. What do you think about the physicality? I don't have an issue with it whatsoever. Just good, healthy, physical playoff basketball. I'm a little bit surprised that the officials have allowed the guys to bang and, play with this type of physicality, but it's kind of refreshing for someone that grew up in the era that I did. So I don't know what you think about it, but I think it's made for some really good gameplay. But I do agree with what Paul said earlier when he called in, where it's weird. We don't want the officials to decide the game with the whistle, but there are times where they decide the game without blowing the whistle. It goes both ways. But I love the adjustments, the chess match from game to game. We saw the adjustments that the Spurs made from game 2 to game 3. Mitch Johnson did a great job of drawing up some actions to get Wemby down low. And as Brad Botkin pointed out, Wemby is getting closer and closer to the rim with each passing game, from 17 feet down to 10, inside of 10. His shot diet, he's getting closer looks. And obviously, when he's in the paint and around the basket where he can have an impact, that's where he's going to do the bulk of his damage. He can step back and shoot the 3, but they're more effective when he's around the rim making an impact that way, which I think is really cool. Going back to the play that they missed where, as I mentioned before, Wemby, as my boy Steve pointed out, palmed Brunson's dome and threw him into the ground. We got some comment on that. And this comes from the NBA VP of Refs, Monty McCutcheon. And he commented on the situation.
I think we can all agree that a foul was missed on that play.
Right.
We have a big part of our job is to on-ball, off-ball exchanges between referees. We did a poor job of that here where we got two people on ball and we don't see the screening action.
Yeah.
Lots of fighting over screens throughout the game. And if we break down in our fundamentals in even the smallest amounts, we have the opportunity to miss a clear foul as we missed here. You know, every game is reviewed by the league office post-game, the entirety of the game, and we're in the process of doing that today. Most certainly it's important to note, though, as we do that review, that there's a real deference, just like in our replay center, Malika, that we want a clear and conclusive standard to upgrade something because we do defer to the on-court officials. They're the ones feeling the moments.
Right.
They're the ones that are involved in the up and down of the game. If there's a clear miss, then there's a possibility for an upgrade, but it is a clear and conclusive standard.
Right.
It's not the same as re-refereeing it.
All right, there you go. There's Monty McCutcheon. Jalen Brunson loves Karl Anthony Towns.
I truly love that. I love that dude and everything he's done for this team, the city, as a friend. And he's been fantastic.
Yeah. There you go. Setting up for a big game 4 tonight. I thought that third quarter response from San Antonio in game number 3 was nice. Knicks outscored them by 18 in the second, took a 7-point lead into halftime, and then all of a sudden the Spurs just took control in the third quarter. And it was quick and it was efficient. And Mitch Johnson, their head coach, talked about that.
We had to come out with the right approach and the right energy. There were some things in the second quarter that we weren't sharp enough on. And halftime's a time to really catch your breath and discuss some things that you need to improve upon or what you're seeing out there that hopefully can help each other in the second half. And that's what we did. I thought we came out in the third quarter with the right approach. We got some stops and had some good execution.
All right, from the 503, first off, Chad, I too am afraid of the dentist. It is sheer anxiety for me due to when I was a kid and I got hurt a bit and he took his hand and tapped my face. I had to have Tris going to the dentist. I'm just petrified. Now, about the game, I don't really think there was too much dirty about Wemby, but after watching the last game in the flagrant, there's a side to him that we don't even know about. I would love to see the Knicks, Josh Hart, win, but my gut tells me San Antonio now has got a little bit of an edge. Yeah, there's no question. Now, is Wemby dirty? I don't know about that. I mean, there are times, throwing the elbow into a face of like Naz Reid, that was a dirty play. I don't think he's a dirty player, but I do like the fact that he's young and not afraid to throw guys around a little bit. He's got to, right? Because he's got to protect himself because teams are going to get physical with him. And you watch the game tonight, there's going to be a lot of plays where there are fouls both ways that aren't called, but I'm seeing Wemby get clutched, grabbed, and like when he goes up for a lob play or a rebound, especially on the offensive glass, he's got a guy in his arm holding him. So I understand why Wemby lashes out from time to time because he's got to protect himself. And every single player on the floor is well aware of what he's capable of, and they know the best way to get into him is to get physical. So it goes both ways. And the calls have been missed both ways. They've allowed two teams to play, but the physicality tonight will go both ways. We're going to see times where the Knicks are getting physical with Wemby, that we're going to see times where the Spurs are getting really physical with Brunson. It's just part of a playoff series. It's part of what makes the playoff series great. And again, I don't know. I can make a case for both teams tonight. This potentially could be the best game of the series. Now, if the Spurs are going to win the series, they do have to win tonight. I don't think they can win 3 straight games if they lose tonight. And if they win tonight, then we're back to basically a coin flip type series that would likely go 7, I would guess. So that's where the intrigue lies. All right, 503-248-0620. We will have a bonus segment at 6. I'll have a little conversation with Rich Burke as he gets ready for some Hops baseball. And, of course, back tomorrow with the Rip City Drive at 3. I appreciate your time right here in your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. Someone hit me with a question a couple of days ago on the golf course. Hey, Chad, who is the greatest athlete you've seen perform live? You ever thought about that? Like, what is the greatest athlete that you've ever seen perform live with your own eyes? And I started going through my list, and I have a pretty good list of legends that I've seen perform in person. Michael Jordan is right up near the top of the list. I saw him in 1997 at Rose Garden, Bulls and Trailblazers. He ended up the game with like 34 points. He had 20 in the fourth quarter. Bulls won that game. Only time I've seen MJ in person, thanks to my buddy Jason Vickery. So 1997, MJ. Back in 91, late 91, me and my buddy Jason went down to the Coliseum. And what we used to do back in the day, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate to this, this is back when the Blazers were one of the best teams in the NBA and going to the NBA Finals 2 out of 3 years. Getting tickets was challenging, very challenging. We would sometimes get them from our manager at Red Robin, I think on 1 or 2 occasions, and we got to go to a playoff game. That was epic. Phoenix Suns, Portland Trailblazers, Game 1, Western Conference Final. But during the regular season, we would head down to Moda Center, the Coliseum at the time, and they would have the scalpers out there on the streets. And we would walk around and try to negotiate and get deals done with the scalpers who were out there bumping around the Coliseum. And sometimes we'd get a price that we liked. Sometimes we're like, nah, it's not worth it. But then we learned how to sneak into the Coliseum. And for those of you who have been around the area for a long time, you remember that, back when smoking was like a big deal. And fortunately, our society we've turned smokers into lepers where they're not allowed to do what they do in public places very well. So what they would do, the smokers, they would exit Coliseum to go outside to get a cancer stick on. And there were like double doors. So there was one set of doors that you would walk through and enter into this little holding area. And then the other set of doors that would open up and lead you into the Coliseum. And so what we would do is if we couldn't find a price for the tickets for the game we wanted to go to, we would wait for those doors to open. We would go into the first set, wait for another smoker to come out, and then we'd sneak into the Coliseum. The only downside of that is if you don't have a ticket, pretty much that place was sold out all the time, right, with just over 12,000. We would find open seats and sit down, but then when the person with the actual ticket came by, we'd have to get up and move. So we would end up, sitting in a variety of different seats, praying that no one, came for the game, or we'd end up walking around the concourse. But we did sneak in for the Boston Celtics, so I had a chance to see Larry Bird live and in person, and that was pretty awesome. So I was pretty happy about that. And then after the game, we walked over to the side of the Coliseum, and, back then, not the same type of security, but they were just parked right up next to the Coliseum, and the players would have to come out and board the bus, and we got to say hi to Larry, and I thought that was pretty sweet. So Larry Bird, Michael Jordan. I've seen Joe Montana a couple of times live. My dad was a big fan of Joe Montana. We both loved Elway, and we were Bronco fans, but we respected Joe Montana a great deal. And if you remember, after the 92 season, he signed a deal with the Kansas City Chiefs. Steve Young was now the quarterback with the 49ers. Joe Montana went to Kansas City. He took him to an AFC title game. So he played back-to-back years with the Chiefs up at the Kingdom, 93, 94, and I went both years. So I had a chance to see Joe Montana live in person, not once but twice. That was pretty awesome. I saw Elway play multiple times, once at Mile High Stadium, and the rest of the times I saw Elway play at the Kingdom. That was 89, 90, 91, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, and 98. So I got to see Elway play 9 times live up in Seattle, plus once in a preseason game at Mile High Stadium before he moved out here, so 10 times. I saw Barry Bonds play for the Giants against the Rockies in Colorado once. We were hoping to see him hit a home run, but that never materialized. So I thought that was a bit unfortunate. Kobe Bryant, I've seen live a couple of times, which was pretty sweet. Probably one of my favorite work trips for the Oregon-Auburn National Title Week down in Phoenix. I went down and did my shows down there for a whole week and went down with John Lund, who is a good friend of mine and used to work up here and one of the best radio talents I know. But we went down there the week before and we were doing our shows, the whole week from Phoenix. But what I did is I was able to get a press pass from my buddy Steve, so he was able to hang out with me all week. Well, he came down early and hung out with me and just stayed in my hotel room. The Lakers came down and played the Suns early in the week, and so we went to that game. We got tickets and went to go see Kobe because we were both Kobe fans, to go see Kobe play the Suns. Both football teams, Auburn and Oregon, were at that game too. Most of them were just, big Kobe fans, but, we went to that game. I'm trying to think who else. Those are kind of the big ones there. And I've seen some others. I did have a chance to see Darryl Strawberry. I went down with my Nana and Papa summer of 1990. And this is when my aunt and uncle were living down in Houston. So we went down to Houston to hang out for a week. And my Uncle Gordon took us to a series, 3 games, Friday, Saturday, Sunday at the old Astrodome, which reminded me a lot of the Kingdome. But we saw the Mets and the Astros over a 3-game set. So I got to see Darryl Strawberry live. And Darryl Strawberry was awesome back in the day. Problem is he didn't hit any home runs in the series, so I was a little bit, torn on that, right? I've seen Mariano Rivera close out a couple of games live up in Seattle, which was really cool because I always had a great respect for Mariano and thought he was awesome. So I've been fortunate to see some great players. But Michael Jordan's probably the best. Like, if you wanted to just put one guy at the top, seeing MJ that year in person was pretty sweet at Rose Garden. J.R. Ryder and he went at it pretty good in that game, too, which is cool. And one of the best games I ever covered was that Game 7 of the 2016 NBA Finals. It's when I was down in the Bay Area. The Warriors were basically unstoppable that year with the 73-9 record. And it was just assumed that they were going to win the championship and go back-to-back. But in that series, they got up 3-1. But then Andrew Bogut got hurt. Draymond got in trouble. And the Cavs were able to win Game 5 in San Francisco, go back home, even up the series at 3 games apiece, and they won it in Game 7. But that experience in Game 7 between the LeBron block and then the Kyrie 3, that building was so loud, the old Coliseum where the Warriors played, but when Kyrie hit that shot, like, it was dead silent. Like, you could hear the gasps in Warrior fans' breath, like they were in agony. You win 73 games but don't win the championship. You're up 3-1 in the finals and you drop 3 straight games and blow it to LeBron and the Cavs. That was a hard one to accept, but that shot and seeing that moment was pretty big. But I never had the benefit of seeing some of the other guys. I wish I could have seen Barry Sanders in person, never did. My dad and my brother did when he was at Oklahoma State. I was an Oklahoma fan. My dad went to Oklahoma State. So when we lived in Colorado, they went to the Oklahoma State Colorado game one year up in Boulder. I did not go. I think I went skiing that day, but I wish I would have gone so I could have seen Barry Sanders play because he was a terrific football player. But I have seen, up in Seattle over the years, some pretty darn good football players. Guys who would, go on to become, fairly legendary. So, I don't know. There you have it, 503-248-0620. But I would say Michael Jordan, Barry Bonds, who's probably the best baseball player of my generation. I did see McGuire when he was with the A's play up at Kingdome. My buddy Luke and I went up for a game on a Sunday, and Eckersley closed out the game. So it was cool to see Eck in action. I rewatched game 1 of the 88 World Series last night. I rewatched the 9th inning to hear Vin Scully's call and to just remember the details and the drama surrounding the Kirk Gibson home run. So in my lifetime, I think that's the best home run in baseball history, but, it may or may not be. I think because of the circumstances and how banged up and how much pain Gibby was in, I think it is. But regardless, it's the best home run in the history of my life. And so what was great about that series, my 8th grade teacher, Mr. Kink, was a huge Dodger fan. And so we got to live vicariously through him the entire series. But that home run, like, you should go back. They've got the full game now. You know, I monitor YouTube for these full games or full-length different games I want to watch, whether it be football, basketball, baseball, or whatever. They finally got that full game loaded up. And so I came across it last night, and it was later. I was getting tired, and I had to get up early, so I didn't want to waste too much time, so I watched the ninth inning. But it was very compelling. It's now just after 5:30. They're getting ready. That the actual tip-off time is going to come up in about 10 to 11 minutes. Game 4, Knicks, Spurs. But it's going to be good. And they're showcasing some of the Spurs defense on Brunson in that Game 3. I mean, there were like 7 or 8 possessions where you just dribbled the clock out. No pass. I think they had 18 assists as a team in that game number 3. Man, the Spurs defense is relentless too, by the way. When you have young guys that don't know any better, they just don't stop. And I agree with Brad Bakken. Like, we are getting some of the best basketball you could hope for in a Game 4 right now. Like, the competition, the intensity, everything about this is perfect. Like, these two teams are playing their tails off, and we're getting the best of the best. It's been a while since we've seen a finals that I can recall that's been this good, this highly contested through 3 games. I think both teams, this is evenly matched. Like, the Knicks are legit. So the question marks I had going into the finals, like, are the Knicks legit, or are they just a benefactor of an easy pathway to the East? Well, I now believe the Knicks are super legit and really good. And then any question marks I had about the Spurs' youth, I mean, it's shown up in the series, right, with the mistakes in games 1 and 2. But their bounce back in Game 3, I mean, they're ready to do it right now, too. And then I keep wondering about Wemby, like, is it his time? Like, is it really Wemby's time? Is he just going to take over the finals now after what he did in game number 3? And that's really the X factor here is, like, the Knicks are great. But if Wemby's going to continue to impact the game like he did in game number 3, then there's no answer for that. But I don't know if we're going to see the same type of Wemby tonight because he's not getting the 2 days off between games, only 1 day. But after tonight, they're going to get 2 more days, Thursday, Friday. They won't play again until Saturday. So that's going to be very helpful for some of these guys as the series plays out because they're going to start separating the games by 2 days. And, you know, as physical and as much energy that they're expending, that's going to be helpful to both sides, but especially Victor Wembanyama. Because there's been times throughout the Western Conference Finals and even here in the NBA Finals where you can tell at times. I thought in Game 1 he looked a little bit gassed. But those 2 days off are a big deal. And for the Knicks, they're more of a veteran team. And for a guy like Brunson, it's going to be important, too, to get that extra rest because he's out there working his butt off. I mean, at every turn, he's got a fresh physical body up in his face. Like, that just is relentless in the attack. And we've all, for those of you who play basketball, I mean, dude, when someone's picking you up full court, it's really annoying. Not that you can't handle it, but over the course of a full game, when you're facing that type of pressure, you know, for the 38 minutes you're on the floor, you know, it starts to bother you. It wears on you because you've got that extra strain and stress of getting the ball up, not turning it over, trying to initiate the offense, getting things in the position you want, and it just slows down your process. And that's really what they're trying to do. They want to pressure Brunson, get him fatigued, get him frustrated, and eliminate some of the movement within their offense with the basketball and the bodies. Fascinating. 503-248-0620. Jumping back to the NFL for just a moment, the Minnesota Vikings will have a new quarterback this year. J.J. McCarthy has basically been benched, and Kyler Murray left Arizona, now in Minnesota. And he talked about splitting reps at practice.
I think the toughest part is, again, I was there for 7 years. I know I had 2 different, offensive systems, but at the same time, you're getting all those reps. You know, now having to split reps, it's me already being behind, not getting the amount of reps that, you know, you would typically want a guy to get learning an offense. That's probably the toughest part, you know, just, again, going back to the past, being in control of everything, understanding what we were already doing because I was comfortable within the system. Now coming into the new system, learning on the fly, trying to play fast, efficient, and let it loose while learning is pretty, you know, that's the toughest part.
And he also talked about, you know, just a quarterback competition, you know, competing and having some competition for that position.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, I'm not really too worried about the competition side of things, honestly. But to answer your question, yes. Like, I mean, the competitor that I am, obviously everybody out here, holds themselves to a high standard, and that's the unfortunate part when you do have days where you feel like, well, I wish I had that back, I wish I had that throwback, whatever it is, coach is reminding you, staying on you about, hey, this is the learning phase, this is, you are new to this, you got to give yourself that grace, and take it with a grain of salt, because this is the time we're trying to get better. So it's all part of the process.
Yeah, and the reason why he's not worried about a QB competition is because he was brought in to be the starter. Because J.J. McCarthy has not gotten the job done, and the Vikings aren't going to sit around with the roster they have and allow a guy like J.J. McCarthy to underperform and run the team into the ground. I'm just excited to see Kyler Murray in a position with great players around him and great coaching to see what he can do. I like Kyler, and I want him to have success. And I just like watching him play because he's unique with his athleticism and his size, and to see what he can do with that type of arm strength. All right, finally, they're getting to the national anthem there at Madison Square Garden. Should be another electric atmosphere tonight as we get ready for game number 4. And don't forget, Rip City Drive tomorrow starting at 3 here on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. You can reach out. You can jump on board. You can say what's up. If you want to give me your quick prediction on what's going to take place tonight. I'm consistent. I have no idea who's going to win tonight. I am now in my thoughts. I have no idea. I've overanalyzed the game, but I know I do want a 7-game series because I love drama. And in order for a 7-game series to take place, that's probably going to require a Spurs victory tonight. So I guess I'm pulling for the Spurs. Because how this is going to play out, if the Knicks win tonight, they'll go back to San Antonio for game 5. Spurs probably win, and then the Knicks are set up for the game 6, win the championship at home. But if the Spurs win tonight, who knows what's going to happen? Probably a 7-game series. All right, 503-248-0620. You can jump on board. I do appreciate your time. Hope you're enjoying your Wednesday evening. And by the way, we got warm temperatures coming. Summertime, baby. You got the Rip City Drive. All right, game 4 is officially underway. Spurs, on a couple of free throws from De'Aaron Fox, have a 2-0 lead, and it's going to be really fun to see how this game plays out. Karl Anthony Towns heavily involved in the Knicks' first possession of the game, and he's able to get a bucket to go down to even the game up at 2. 11:17 to go in the first quarter. So let's see how things play out, and credit to both teams, but especially the Spurs. Young, but playing with reckless abandon. You got to love it. And Vassell just hit a 3, 5-2 Spurs. So the good thing is traffic shouldn't be too much of a problem tonight. So when I'm done here, I'll be able to get home to, be able to watch the entire second half, which is going to be fun. And on the second possession, where'd the Knicks go? Towns, who attacked Wemby and picked up a foul. And now Towns is going straight to the free throw line. It's pretty awesome. Well, you knew after what took place in Game 3 that they were going to go right to Karl Anthony Towns. And Knicks fans, look, I can understand it. Like, if you're a Knicks fan, I can understand why you would look at Wemby as a dirty player, or why you might come away with the idea that the league is protecting him after he pushed Brunson into the court. Like, I can see how that would play out, right? Like, it makes sense. So I understand the frustration. But for the Knicks, if they're going to win the championship, if they want to guarantee themselves at a title, get the win tonight to go up 3-1. But if they lose tonight and have to get 2 days off to go back to San Antonio, evened up at 2, how wild would that be? How many of us thought the series is over after the Spurs dropped the first 2 games at home? I would be one of those, raising my hand. I thought it was done. It's like, what's going on here? San Antonio's not ready. They're too young. They're making too many mistakes. The Knicks are on fire, 13 straight wins. And all of a sudden, the Spurs are right back in the series. It's just, we get so hung up in what happened the last game. And, sometimes, you go through a couple of losses, you figure some things out, and you move forward. It's just different. Playoff series are different than one-game situations. I mean, that's what I love about football is the pressure of knowing that you get off to a bad start in this game, you done. But in basketball, like, you can have a bad game. You learn from it, make your adjustments, and move on. Nothing new to report on the Trailblazer front, too, by the way, other than I think we're going to hear something about a coach here in the near future. I still think it's going to be Tiago Splitter. Based on what I'm hearing from the people I've talked to, I still think a deal is going to get done with the city council. So I don't think the Blazers are going to go anywhere. And our owner, Tom Dundon, has his hockey squad in the Stanley Cup final, tied up at 2 with a chance to win the Stanley Cup. And what's amazing to me is that Blazer fans are freaking out. Let's just give Tom Dundon some time to get entrenched, to get the work done, and make some decisions, and then we can sit back and judge based on the results of those, right? But no, I still do not believe the team's going to move. I don't think they're going to go anywhere, and I think this is a good time to be a Trailblazer fan. You have an owner that wants to win and will be aggressive, period. So I guess the other question I have would be this, like, after they get the coach hired, which I believe will be Tiago Splitter. So once they get the coach in place, what I guess the other big question I have is Tom Dundon going to go after a big name? Like, is he going to try and swing for the fences and go for a big trade to bring in a big name? What's his approach? I mean, obviously, if you're a new owner, if you come in and make a big splash and land a Giannis, people are going to love you. I just don't know, like, what's his approach going to be? I don't know the answer to that. I don't. I do believe, based on what I've heard and what he said himself, is I don't think he's afraid to do that. Like, if a deal comes across that where they have a chance to get a star, he's not afraid to make that type of decision, which is cool. So I think he'll be fearless in his approach. I just don't know if that's something that, is he dead set on that? Now, the finals game number 4 has been stalled because they're reviewing a play. I think there was a challenge. Towns went up and had a shot blocked. They called a foul on Wemby, but I don't know. I can't tell. I can't guess. The officials. And the call was overturned. So it looks like Towns has 2 fouls. They overturned the call, and Towns got called for an offensive foul because he hooked Wemby. Wow. So Towns aggressive early, but 2 fouls. And here's Wembanyama in the paint and puts it up and in. 7-2 Spurs with 10:40 to go first quarter. What's crazy about these games, too, Knicks have won 2 of the first 3 games, but the Spurs have been up by double digits in every single game. And because Towns is out with the 2 fouls, they got Mitchell Robinson in. Wow. Crazy. Crazy, crazy. And how would this be if the Spurs were to come back and get the championship as a young team? After losing the first 2 games at home, that would be wild. And keep in mind, this has been pointed out by a listener of ours. I think it was Dave, because he's really excited about this. The youngest team to ever win a championship is the 1977 Trailblazers. If the Spurs do it this year, they'll be the second youngest team. So the Blazers still hold the title for youngest team to win a championship, which is pretty cool. I like that. But again, what was the similarity between the Blazers and the Spurs this year? The Blazers had a young phenom at center in Bill Walton who was doing things that we had never seen a big man do before, right? Same thing here with Wembanyama, just different styles. But, Bill Walton at his best is as good as any big man in the history of the NBA. That is truth. And the Spurs are now up 10-2 early first quarter. Crazy. They just got another corner 3 from Vassell. He's got 6 points on 2 of 2 shooting from downtown. And here's a turnover and a Champagny dunk. 12-2 Spurs. Timeout Knicks. 9:16 to go first quarter. Like, if you're a Knicks fan, this is the last thing you wanted to see in terms of how you wanted the game to start. Unbelievable. And the turnover came from pressure on Brunson, Hart trying to get him the ball around half court, and it resulted in a ricochet right into the hands of Champagny for the jam. Dang, it's like one part of the series, one team looks like they're in full control, and now all of a sudden the Spurs look like they figured it out. A lot of turns, a lot of twists and turns. Okay, bonus segment. We're going to come back. Rich Burke is going to join us, and we'll talk a little baseball with the voice of the Hops, Rich Burke, here on the Rip City Drive. And I'll keep you up to date on the Game 4 of the finals if you're out there driving around. Well, it took about 3 hours, but at least my mouth is now back to normal after that 4-hour visit to the dentist today. And very happy to welcome back to the show the voice of your Hillsborough Hops, Rich Burke, as the Hops get ready to take on Tri-City tonight, coming up at 6:35 first pitch. Rich, good evening, my friend.
Good evening, and we have Matt Rickard here as well, and very much looking forward to tonight's game. And a note to one of my favorite producers, Brendan Slaughter, if he could just pot you up a little bit so that I can hear you just a little bit better, that would be good. And things are good on our end, and I got to tell you, Chad, I'm feeling a little older right now. I like to say it's okay to get older. It's not okay to get old. So I'm just saying I'm feeling a little bit older right now because we got a shortstop here who's the top minor league prospect in the Diamondbacks chain. He's officially number 2 on the Diamondbacks prospect list. His name is Kaysen Cunningham. He's 19 years old. He's out of San Antonio. And the guy ahead of him on the list played for the Hops just last year, 68 games last year, Ryan Waldschmidt. But he's now in the big leagues. So Cunningham is the top minor league prospect for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Just joined us yesterday, one of the younger players in the league. The average age of hitters in our league is just over 22, and of pitchers is just over 23. Kaysen Cunningham's dad, Marco Cunningham, played in the Royals chain. I called his games in this league 26 years ago.
My goodness.
Yeah, Marco Cunningham was draftee by the Royals out of Texas Tech, and I had a stint in this league, as you know, from 1994 through 2000, and then did AAA baseball for the Portland Beavers, where you and I worked together.
Yeah.
I was there for 10 years, and then the Hops came into existence when AAA left, and here I am. But, yeah, 2000, Marco Cunningham played 75 games for Spokane in the Northwest League. I probably called a dozen of his games.
That is awesome. Yeah, I feel older now because when I hear things like, for instance, your son getting married, or friends that I have where I knew when their kids were born and now they're graduating from high school, going to college, or getting married, like that really is trippy because you look around and you're like, I'm not a young guy anymore. You know, people are growing around me. It's a wild process because you don't notice it all at once.
Yeah, and probably one of the big watershed moments is when one of your kids graduates from high school.
I know.
And Matt Rickard's son just did that.
Yeah, congratulations, Matt.
Just had the graduation ceremony last week. Stone's throw from here over at Hillsborough Stadium.
What school did he go to?
Liberty High School.
Dude, that's awesome. Now, what was that like for you to sit back and watch the graduation and just let that sink in for a moment that, you know, your son was now done with high school?
It all goes so ridiculously fast, and as you come up as a younger person, as you start to build a family as a young person, you hear that cliche over and over that it goes so fast, and it is so true.
It really is. Well, I'll tell you what, I give you guys both credit because you thought better baseball was coming for the Hops, and, you know, over the last 14 games, 10-4, we're starting to see some better ball from the guys.
Yeah. We're all excited around here.
Uh-huh. And tell them why, Matt.
Well, because the beauty of the minor league system, it's a split season. So in just a little over a week, all the records get erased. We start from scratch. Eugene has already clinched the first half championship, so they'll be in the championship series come September. And then it's a race to see who plays the Emeralds at the end of the year for the big trophy.
Yeah, there's so much turnover at this level, or at any level of the minor leagues, that they institute a split season. So it's really good. And Matt, by the way, Chad, has this idea that a split season format might be something the NBA would want to try.
Wow.
What do you think of that?
Well, I think it's a great idea. What I love about the split season format is if you get off, because, you know, sometimes things happen in sports. It could be injuries, it could be turnover, whatever the case may be. You can get off to a bad start, and it buries your season in terms of playoff hopes, but you finish strong and are playing good ball. So, you know, with the split season format, like if the Hops, they get off to a slow start, but now they're starting to play their better baseball, they have this hope where you go into the second half knowing that, hey, if we continue in this path and we continue to work on the things that we're doing right now, we got a chance to get there. I love that. It's fun.
Yeah, it sounds pretty dramatic and radical, but when you think of all the complaints that have been bubbling up, things I've been complaining about for years that are now front page news in the NBA, this would solve a lot of those problems.
It's not a bad idea. And what I like is I like it when multiple teams and multiple fan bases, regardless of sport, have hope, knowing that there is postseason opportunities, I think that creates more interest. At least that's what I've noticed, like even with the expanded college football playoffs. So I'm all about it.
Can you imagine in the middle to the end of January, people in the NBA excited about regular season games? Hey, our team could qualify for the playoffs.
Can you imagine in the middle of January teams playing hard in the NBA?
No, but that's what's great, though, is like if you know that you've got hope because of the format being set up that way, you would have teams approach the year differently and look to close out and be strong. So it's not a bad idea. Actually, even from the complainer, Matt Rickard, I think that's a great idea.
The key is in instituting this at the highest levels, you have to incentivize it enough to make it worthwhile for teams to go hard in that first half. It's got to be a big enough prize. So if you win your first half, maybe guarantee home games throughout the first round of the playoffs, something like that.
Yeah, that's true. You know what's great, too, guys, is that, we give away Hops tickets every Tuesday on Hops Ticket Tuesday where they can sit in the Rip City Radio row, and it's pretty awesome. But the feedback that I'm getting from people that are going to the park for the first time, they are literally blown away. And once again, they agree with you that the attention to detail at the new ballpark, I love getting people's reaction when they see it for the first time because then it reminds you of how awesome the park is.
Yeah, it really is. And matter of fact, I had that experience yesterday. I was telling Matt and Seth in the middle innings yesterday that one of my favorite baseball authors is Thomas Boswell, and he wrote a book 40 years ago called Why Time Begins on Opening Day. And one of the opening lines of the book is, I am a ballpark wanderer. And it talks about how he likes to go to different spots in the ballpark, get a different flavor for things, go to the expensive seats, go to the cheap seats, wherever. And I hadn't done this for a while. I used to do it all the time. I took my scorebook so I could keep track of the game. Matt was calling play-by-play yesterday. And so I left the booth and I walked around the ballpark. It was incredible. And I was out by center field, and I even wrote the guy's quote down. One guy out there by center field was out there with a buddy. The guy's probably in his mid-30s. And he turned and looked at his friend and he said, "This is awesome. This is so dang cool." He was so surprised that this ballpark is as good as it is.
Yeah.
And word's going to get out, and these crowds are going to build. And it's an incredible place to watch a game.
Well, I'm so glad that you mentioned that because I've done that before where when I go to catch a baseball series, it could be at Dodger Stadium or it could be up at T-Mobile Park, wherever I'm at. I've done that before where in the middle of the game, I'll just take off and explore for a few minutes just to take a look around to see if I notice anything unique about the ballpark. And so I totally understand what that means to be a ballpark wanderer because you see a lot of people do that. That's part of the greatness of going to a baseball game.
You get to use all your senses.
Yes.
Sights, sounds, smells, particularly in a ballpark like this with so much good food about.
Yep. And one of the I guess drawbacks from our standpoint is when the Hops go on the road, it's only one of us that goes. It'll be Seth or Matt mostly this year, me occasionally. Last year we divided them up, 22 games each. There's 66 road games. And so we're stuck in the booth on the road alone, whereas if there were a pair of us there, well, one of us could leave for an inning and kind of walk around and get the flavor of a different ballpark. But I'll tell you what, there's plenty of flavor here to go around. It's awesome.
Yeah, it really is. What can you tell us about tonight's pitching matchup with Lucas Knowles taking on Patrick Forbes?
Get this. As you know, Chad, I do Oregon State TV play-by-play and have for years. Both of these pitchers faced the Beavers in the College World Series.
Wow.
Patrick Forbes for Louisville last year. And Lucas Knowles pitched at the University of Washington just 1 year, 2018, pitched in Omaha for the Dogs against the Beavers. As a matter of fact, he gave up 5 runs in 1 inning as Oregon State knocked Washington out of that. And Patrick Forbes in Louisville beat the Beavers last year, but not the game that Forbes pitched. Oregon State actually won that game on Gavin Turley's walk-off double. Though,
that's right.
I think Forbes pitched pretty well in that one. So both of them have faced Oregon State. Forbes is an excellent prospect, top 10 prospect in the Diamondbacks chain. Fastball is upper 90s, and he hits his spots. And Matt, I know you're just looking forward to watching him like I am.
Yeah, this is only his second appearance here. We expected him on the opening day roster. He had a little injury setback that put him on the injured list to start the season, so a delayed start to his first pro campaign this year. But we were anticipating him being one of the top, if not the top arms of the starting rotation this year for the Hops.
And Chad, on the other hand, Lucas Knowles is one of the older players we've ever seen in this league who wasn't here on injury rehab from the big leagues. He's 28 years old. He turned 28 in March and kind of on the back end of his career, still hoping to get a shot, but a lot of years in the Nationals organization, signed as a minor league free agent with the Angels during the offseason. And here he is. He's a Northwest guy from the Seattle area, Port Orchard, Washington, and getting a chance to pitch in the Northwest League, and his family gets to watch him.
I was just having a beer in Port Orchard a few weeks ago.
Good place.
It is a good place.
Yeah.
Now, whereabouts is Port Orchard? I can't remember if I've been there or not.
It's across the water from Bremerton. So it's just south of, there's a strait of water, and it's just south of Bremerton.
That's right.
It's a little off the beaten path. You have to be going there specifically. You don't really go through Port Orchard on the way to anywhere.
I don't know if you saw it, but Seth last week took a picture when he was in Spokane. The hole in the wall where Travis Demers was nearly killed by a wayward baseball is still there. The markings are still there. I talked to Travis about it, and he couldn't believe it was still there. But that was the night where the ball stuck in the wall. Travis has the ball, and that was the night he met George Brett.
No kidding.
Yes.
George Brett was there.
George Brett was there, and he was so amazed that a ball came up to that level in the press box and stuck in the wall that Brett came by to take a look at it because he was amazed. And that's when Travis had to meet the great George Brett face-to-face, and they shook hands and talked for a bit. So I love that story.
That is incredible. It's especially incredible because Travis didn't fill in for us very much.
Yes.
And I frankly had, until I saw that tweet, had forgotten that he had done games in Spokane. Back in 1995, when I was doing Portland Rockies play-by-play, we had a package of games on Fox Sports Net Northwest, and actually did some road games for the Portland Rockies. And one of the games was in Spokane, and George Brett came on the air with us for maybe 4 innings. He was great. So for people who don't know, he and his brothers co-own the Spokane Indians.
That's right. What's the name of their sports group? I forgot. What do they call it? There's this.
I think it's Brett Sports
Yeah,
Group,
Brett
isn't it?
Sports. Yeah, it's Brett Sports. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, that's awesome. Well, guys, as always, I enjoy having the conversation with you. And what do you expect from the game tonight? Looks like the weather now, starting today and as we get into the weekend, warmer temperatures, right?
Yeah, it's supposed to be mid to upper 90s over the weekend. Should be great.
Well, what do you expect? How do you think the ball will is the ball going to carry more in the heat? What do you expect there?
Well, based on what we've seen at the outset of this series, the ball's flying pretty well. We were talking about this. We're still trying to figure out how this ballpark's going to play in the long term. I think you're going to see a lot of balls fly out to right field here. So it's going to be friendly to the left-handed pull hitter because I think the prevailing winds, for the most part, are going to be blowing in that direction on most nights. Although when we were here last for the Everett series, we had a north-northwest wind coming in from left for that series. But I think more nights than not, especially once we get into the midsummer, you're going to see that wind blowing out toward right field. The ball will carry pretty well.
Yeah, and yesterday, Chad, the Hops hit 4 home runs in their 25th game in this ballpark. Next door, 613 games. They only did that one time. Hit 4 home runs in a game.
Wow. Well, that's great. Matt Rickert, Rich Burke, they're coming up next. Hops taking on Tri-City. Guys, I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, there you go. Hops baseball coming up next. You guys enjoy the NBA Finals tonight. I'll be back with the Rip City Drive tomorrow at 3 on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. Big thanks to Brad Botkin and Brendan Slaughter for engineering the program. Have a great night.